And welcome to Forum 360. It's our program with a global outlook, a local view. I'm your host, Bill Stephen Souse, and today we are talking about a global outlook charity and a tie-in with golf, one of America's and the world's best sports. And we're talking about volunteering and the great tie-in with professional golf, a long-time tradition here in Northeast Ohio and Northern Ohio. And we have the Northern Ohio Golf Charities and Foundation President, Mike Adolph, and the recipient of many of the donations and so forth go to the charity and the foundation. We also have a especially important position. We filled it this year here in our area with Geoff McClellan, GMAC, we call him. And Geoff McClellan is the tournament chairman for this year's Kaulig Championships. And of course, Kaulig companies from Hudson, Ohio, here our host city where we produce our program, is the headquarters for Kaulig companies. And so Matt Kaulig and his family and his company supporting the charity, supporting golf, and the volunteering spirit. Mike, talk about the volunteering spirit. You've been a volunteer for 33 years, and now you are the president for the executive board.
That's correct.
So yes. Tell us about your experience getting involved in volunteering.
Right, in volunteering. Well, so yeah, I started out, my wife actually worked in the office. Okay. And my father-in-law was worked at the tournament, volunteered with the Akron JCs originally, got involved with the tournament. So it's kind of in the family. And yes. I say it's like my extended family, all the volunteers.
I like that. I was in the Akron JCs. I'm even wearing my pin, my volunteer pin. And I appreciate the activity of the JCs and other organizations. I remember Kiwanis, and for years they've had different organizations supporting, nonprofits supporting Northern Ohio Golf Charities and Foundation. And one of the most important jobs is tournament chairman, and we have Geoff McClellan with us, our tournament chairman for this year. Geoff, how long have you been involved?
So this is my 30th year, Bill. I started back in 1994. Okay. And what was interesting was back in 1967 was my first exposure to Firestone Country Club. They used to record the CBS Golf Classic in the fall.
That's right.
And then they would show that over the winter time. So I took up golf when I was 13, and my parents would bring me up here and I'd follow along the golfers, and just always been interested in golf. And one year, one of my friends at work said, "Hey, would you like to volunteer?" And I said, "Sure, I'd love to do that." And so that's how I got exposed and started with volunteering at the tournament.
And one of your positions has been helping with scoring and these kind of things, which are so important for the PGA over the years. And now we have the senior PGA, the Championships Tour, has been with us for a while. Tell us about your relationship, scoring and working with the PGA.
Yeah, so actually before scoring, I worked back in operations. So right. We were responsible, for setting the course up and everything involved with the volunteers.
Making sure the carts were there.
Carts were there, radios, you name it, we did it.
Very
delivering food to the volunteers. Right. So then I got moved over into the scoring area. So that's very important because we have the walking scores and we have ShotLink, right. which is really critical for them to be able to keep track, and for the viewers when they're watching
the electronic
exactly
response.
So it's really important because the viewers can then stay up to date because that information is getting fed back through the operations trailer of the scoring group, and then that is displayed on TV. ShotLink tells them how far they hit a ball or how far away they are from the hole. So.
And Mike Adolph, what are some of the activities that you, as the president of the charities, what are you planning this year?
Well, this year our big event is the Ambassador of Golf with Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning
is the
quarterback, great quarterback.
Right. Last year was Steph Curry, and so yeah, we've had a few presidents, George W. Bush and his dad, a few years back, Condoleezza Rice. So
they come in and they're the ambassadors. We have an event there.
Yeah, there's an event on Thursday night. And, this year it's at House 330. We will honor them. They'll receive a plaque or an actual painting to dedicate to that's hung in the clubhouse. So you can see all the past winners of that. So we've had like Chichi Rodriguez, Barbara Nicholas,
a
lot of you know, major contributors to golf over the years.
Right, exactly.
On and off the course. So.
Now, volunteering, the spirit of volunteering in Akron has always been active. But what have you found out about the volunteers that work at the Firestone during the tournaments? What's some of your observations?
It's amazing. I mean, they come back, we pick up like, we haven't seen them for 51 weeks. It's like you pick up the conversation right where you left off. You know, people are coming from all across the country. I think we have 20 states, I believe. You know, in the past we've had over 20 states represented, multiple countries, Canada, a few from England would come back where they volunteered at other tournaments, but you know, want to help with ours also. So it's just great. I mean, just the years
involved. And Firestone Country Club, such an iconic golf course, and Don Padgett is is the professional active in running the tournament also. What's your relationship with Don and the pro shop people?
So Don is the tournament director, and so we're engaged all the time with Don because he's getting information from the PGA as well as Firestone, and then we work together to say what are the needs and the requirements that we as the volunteers have to fulfill to make sure that we run as smooth a tournament as we can.
I'm thinking of the chair people, the chairpersons. Like I work in the media area, and Joyce Lagios is our chairwoman. And so tell us about some of the training that we get from the chair people, and how does it filter down to the volunteers? How do you make sure that the chair people bring all the information? And it's very interesting because you have to have that. You have to have that constant communication.
You do, and what we try and do, Bill, is have some type of training session, especially for first-year volunteers, so they get exposed to what are the different requirements and responsibilities that the different committees have, and then hopefully they're very much engaged, enjoy it. We want to try and make it a great experience for the volunteer as well, because we want them to come back year after year after year. As we were talking before, you know, we've got volunteers that have been there for 60 years now. And it's pretty amazing that folks have gotten engaged so much. And as Mike mentioned, it's kind of a family. We consider ourselves to be a family.
What is the number, last couple of years of volunteers we've had for Kaulig championships? What are the numbers we're talking about?
It's usually somewhere between 650 to 750, I think, in that range.
Yeah, close to that.
Men and women, the volunteers.
Men and women and juniors.
Juniors also.
Because we have the kids carry the standards, you know, with the groups.
Speaking of that, we've done on Forum 360 programs like a First Tee, which is for youth golf. And I know, Mike, some of the recipients that the charity, Northern Ohio Golf Charities and Foundation, who are some of the recipients, people that have applied for grants and so forth, and you've provided help?
Right. So like the First Tee chapters from Cleveland, Akron, and Canton. Another one would be like Feed Children First is in Canton, based out of McKinley schools. We provided them a grant that they were able to buy refrigerator, like industrial refrigerators. So they had a dry pantry, but they were never able to provide, you know, cold or frozen food. So they really helped them expand fresher foods
for the funding.
Right, they could give them vegetables.
You provided funding for that.
And we help pay for that. So mainly we try to do capital projects. We used to do a lot of vehicles, vans and things like that.
I see that also.
Right. So now we do more of, and like City Mission at Cleveland last year, we donated money that they were able to buy two-tiered bunk beds.
For those that are homeless. And
well, it actually, with COVID, they were able to double the amount of people they could house in there because they had steps built into, so that the older gentlemen that were staying there, they couldn't climb up into a second bunk.
Better for the handicapped.
And so they could climb the steps. It was actually built in. They had cabinets, so they had their own lockers kind of under the steps. It was really neat. And some of the volunteers actually went up, took their tools along, and helped build and construct the bunk beds and help their volunteers.
And that's the spirit of volunteering.
And it is
Northern Ohio Golf.
Very much.
Because then we can show
Charities.
Yes, we're out here on the golf course enjoying golf for the week, but all the money is really helping the community.
Well, I know how important it is. Our PBS Western Reserve, we always get support from volunteers and donations. So it's always important to have the spirit of volunteering and volunteerism active here, probably more than I've ever seen in any part of Ohio. Although Columbus, Jack Nicholas and Barb Nicholas do quite a bit down in Columbus with their tournament, the Memorial Tournament. But there's nothing more impressive than the PGA says, than the the volunteers at Firestone Country Club. They say it's probably correct as one of the best in the country.
And we're proud of that. Very much proud of that, Bill.
All right. Well, Geoff, I appreciate that comment because I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. What are some of the challenges that you have been involved in that you think because of the volunteers you've been able to overcome? Some of the things that people don't realize happens behind the scenes.
I think that's really an important point, Bill, that I think a lot of people think, well, we just show up the week of the tournament, everything's in place. Look at this, the course looks great, all the buildings and everything, and that, as far as being on the committees that help run the tournament, we're 12 months out of the year.
Right.
We meet throughout the year to plan for the following year's tournament. As far as challenges are concerned, it's just every year something new, something unique and different. So we're provided with an opportunity to see how flexible we can be. And I think one of the great things about our volunteers is we're very adaptable and flexible to whatever the needs are of the tournament or Firestone Country Club. And I think it's something that I don't take lightly because I know that we're going to have challenges every year, but I think that's what makes us one of the best run volunteer programs as far as the PGA is concerned, is that we are very adaptable to whatever the needs are of the PGA.
Exactly. And you have these folks that are there doing ahead of time roping and staking because security is important. The golfers need their privacy when they're on the course, and the crowds have to be controlled. And these things, the roping is important, putting up the stakes. So a lot of physical work.
There is a lot of physical work, yes.
And of course, you talk about the golf carts, they have to be charged and all these things. And then when bad weather hits, the tournament chairman and the staff have to be involved with the weather, NOAA weather and the weather radar.
Very much so,
Tell
yes.
us, in case there's a storm.
Sure. The PGA always has a weather person on site for our tournament. So they're able to radio us to say, hey, we've got some bad weather coming in. Make sure that we let the marshals, who is the major group of people out on the golf course, aware. And then other areas as well. So we can say, hey, we have some pending weather coming in. Be prepared because we're going to have to assist in getting the players, the caddies, the scorers off the golf course so they can stay safe, as well as the volunteers. We want to give them as much in advance notice of the bad weather as what we can.
Our guests are with the Kaulig Championship, Geoff McClellan. You just heard Geoff mention what goes on in volunteering, and we also have Mike Adolph, the president on the executive board for the Northern Ohio Golf Charities and Foundation, the organization that receives much of the funding, and a lot of the recipients receive money from our foundation. Also, Forum 360 would like to thank people watching, and you could be a volunteer. You might be a volunteer. You've been watching and you said, yeah, I've done that before. Later, Mike and Geoff will give us an opportunity to know how to get active in volunteering for the upcoming tournaments there. All right, I'm Bill Stephen Souse, your host for Forum 360 today. And again, we're talking about volunteering and the tie-in with professional golf. And historically, one of the best tournaments has always been the championship, whether it be with the regular PGA, lately with the senior championship PGA, those that are 50 and over. And today, as I said, we're happy to have with us on Forum 360 people that understand what's going on. All right, Mike Adolph, how can people get involved in volunteering if they have never done this before? How should they go to the website?
They can go to the website, nogcf.org.
NOGCF.org.
Yeah, Northern Ohio Golf Charities Foundation.
All right, I'll mention that. And as far as what people want to do when they get to a tournament, tournament chairman Geoff McClellan, what are some of the things that you think to start out? You talked about marshals. What are some of maybe the first type of volunteer you want? What are some of the things that you think they might get involved with without getting too overwhelmed by that first year?
Sure. I think a lot of people that are interested in golf, they would like to be out on the golf course. So that's why marshaling is so important. We can always use marshals because there's people that we don't expect people to have to be there every day. People have lives, their own personal lives and things they have going on. But that's an area where, again, we're always looking to add people. again, we have that training so that they can get hands-on experience to see what are the roles and responsibilities of that marshal as they're lowering ropes, taking stakes out, making sure we get them back in the ground properly.
Putting the quiet signs
up, letting the patrons and spectators know that, hey, it's time to be quiet. And it's really not a high pressure situation that they're in, but it's an area that most people say, well, I want to be able to see golf. And so this is a great way that they can volunteer and yet still be close enough to be able to see some golf.
I know we get a lot of good comments from the media, like Lanny Watkins when he's doing the championship telecasts, and being a former active PGA pro, he always compliments the volunteers. You know, he says, like the way the volunteers helped move the crowd over, plus safety features, right? If it looks like somebody's going to hit in an area where the volunteers and the marshals can help move those people away, right?
Yes.
Tell me, Mike Adolph, about some of the activities that the foundation does. You said throughout the year you're looking for new recipients for some of the money that's donated. So what's the process for people, nonprofits and organizations that want to get some type of funding?
Right, so normally after the tournament, once we find out how much money is going to be there to distribute, where last year it was 1.23 million, the most ever, which, you know,
congratulations.
we always said, you know, when we went to the seniors, we thought it was good, everybody always thought it was going to be a smaller event. Well, but the Northern Ohio community, corporate community, has stepped up. They're still there. They're still buying tickets. They're still out there doing corporate hospitality.
That's true.
And that's really where a lot of that money comes from that we can give back to the communities.
That's right.
So,
do you see a lot of interest, like we have volunteers saying, oh, my company would like to help, you know, that type of thing. And my company is giving us some time off, vacation time to work with the organization.
Very much so. And I think that gives incentive for more and more people to volunteer, and it gets the corporations, as Mike mentioned, engaged as well, because I think they want to be engaged in providing funding for our charities and so forth, because it is a big Northeast Ohio community.
Very active community.
Yes.
And then we get a lot of the organizations that help with parking. We have the Summit County Metro Parks Firestone Park area where they provide parking.
Space,
we have shuttle buses. Is that still correct,
Yes,
Michael?
very much so. I might add that the Boy Scouts of America have been engaged with us to help with parking as well.
Right, Geoff. Yeah.
So.
Now, if there is something that you think this year you've improved from last year, what are some of the things you think you've added, Mike Adolph, to the realm of this great tournament?
well, I think working with Kaulig companies.
Matt
they-
Kaulig. Yeah.
Right. They've done a great job of getting the message out there that there is still a tournament, and we're having all kinds of other activities.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's not just a golf tournament. You know, even if you're not a big, huge golfer, there's something there for the whole family.
I know Matt
We're
Kaulig, they do NASCAR also, so sometimes they have their NASCAR
Yeah.
Last year
show
we had,
car.
we had all the show cars there,
And,
which was
people
really, and the
can-
kids could crawl into it, you know, look at them. And
People
yeah.
see how Kaulig is, you know, and he was a quarterback under Coach Faust
Exactly,
and
yeah.
at University of Akron. So
Right.
the Akron Zips and the University of Akron alum help out.
Right, and Matt tells the story. He started driving a van when he was at
was
the
a
university,
young,
and I was actually there with. I was
volunteer.
in college the same time Matt was.
Exactly.
He was driving a van. You know, the football players and the cheerleaders would come out
And
they
help
were
volunteer.
Right, they would drive the vans and things.
Now,
so.
there is usually, now this might change from year to year, but there's an expense. You have to buy your uniform.
That's correct,
And your hat
yes.
and so forth. So what typical arrangements do you have to make for that?
Well, usually it costs $80 to register. So that provides you, well, like this is the chairman's shirt this year.
Beautiful with the
So
Kaulig
you
companies.
Get, right.
This is a hat.
You get you get the golf shirt to go with it, and then you get either a baseball hat, a visor, or we also do the straw
Sun
hats.
hats.
Yeah, like a sun hat, larger
Yeah.
bucket
Right.
hat
Sure.
type thing. And then we provide you every day, each day you work, we're providing you breakfast in the morning, lunch, snacks during the day, as well as we have coffee trucks coming in the morning. One day we've got cupcakes. At the end of play, we've got popcorn,
Right, dinners,
cone of ice,
yeah.
different things. So we're
Right.
trying to take care of the volunteer. You've been out there in the sun all day,
Right.
so we're trying to make sure you come off the course and get refreshed and
There's something special about
something-
volunteering.
there
You're
is,
always,
yeah.
and like I said earlier, I mentioned to Geoff McClellan, our tournament chairman, the chair people are so good to their volunteers. Let's say chairman might have, or chairwoman might have 10 or 12 people working in their area, and it could be involved with tickets, it could be involved with the media, it could be involved with carts or marshals, and those chair people pass that information down. So people are wondering, well, I might not like to do it because I'm a little bit apprehensive, but there are people there to support you, right, Mike?
Definitely.
Yes.
And
definitely,
Geoff.
yes.
All right, now, Geoff, tell us a story, one story that you think probably inspired you when you were a young volunteer. Anything you remember that might involve people?
Sure. I think one of the most important things that really stood out, again, it was prior to me beginning to volunteer. I mentioned the CBS Golf Classic, but after that, they had the tournaments up there. They used to have the World Series of Golf.
Right.
They had many other
American
different
Golf
tournaments.
Classics,
American
all
Golf
these,
Classic, all these different tournaments.
Right, exactly.
So shortly after I got married, and I told my wife, I said, she knew that I was involved in golf a lot. So I said, well, come on, we're going to go up to the tournament. And so we were up at Firestone, walking around following players. We were following Arnold Palmer.
Wow.
And we got to the 16th hole, as he dubbed the monster. And there is a bridge there just before the pond.
Right.
Now, if you go out to the golf course, you'll see that. We were standing right there by the ropes. Arnold Palmer walked right past us. He looked at my wife, and he winked at her, and he said, and he looked directly at me, and he said, "Thank you for volunteering." And that made an impression on me that I'll never forget.
I remember a time when I was helping as a rover marshal, and it was a year at that 16th hole when a fellow my age, actually, same age, Craig Stadler, he was hoping he could win that tournament, and he got into the rough on this. It would be, on the side, and I tried to get the crowd around, backed off, and get our marshals to move, and we had our radios, and Craig was so calm, and he said, "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I'll take care of it." So, and sometimes we as volunteers want to, participate, but the pros can run they run their side of it.
They do.
And he did hit that shot perfectly, which I never could have done in my life.
Right.
And the Walrus, Craig Stadler, won that tournament. But at 16, that was a major, like you said, Arnold Palmer called it the monster. That's one reason you want to come to Firestone, because if you've never, let alone volunteer, if you've never come as a guest or a visitor, buy a ticket, and it's so important because that supports the Northern Ohio Golf Charities and Foundation. So ticket sales is very important.
Yes.
What are some of the other volunteer organization job responsibilities that we haven't discussed yet that you think we might want to not overlook? Anything that you recall that a good organization part of the group?
Well, the other piece of this is the foundation board.
Oh, the foundation
So
board.
they
okay.
actually, where we were saying about, we will put out grant requests. So so organizations, they have to be a 501c3.
Okay.
They can fill out a grant request for money proceeds from the tournament.
Right.
That'll be in August or September, October area.
Right.
We'll put it out on the website. They can log in. They can call Danielle Thompson, our executive director.
Danielle's
will
very
answer-
helpful.
Oh, very
Right.
helpful. Yes. She can answer any of their questions for them to help them fill out the grant request. Then that goes to the foundation board.
Okay.
They'll actually review all those requests, figure out what money we have to give out, and figure out which groups get selected.
So that's the local view. You do. The Global
Yes.
Outlook is volunteering and support and charity, but the local view is finding what we need in Northern Ohio, correct?
Yes.
And you talked about, a lot of times you do see trucks, food trucks, and you see organizations that have their own volunteer groups, but you see the logo of the Northern Ohio Golf Charities and Foundation, so you know that some of that money is contributed for that organization.
That's come back from the tournaments. Yeah.
And that is good. So we're talking volunteering and golf at about the iconic golf course Firestone Country Club. We've got about a minute left. before we leave, we want to repeat the websites for those of people who want to get involved in the future.
Yes,
what website should we look for?
nogcf.org to register to volunteer or for the grant request or for the Ambassador of Golf.
All right.
Simon?
Any other
I
comments?
just add to that when you do volunteer, Bill, you can select what area you would like to volunteer.
Okay.
So there's multiple areas that we can allow to have the volunteers come in and help us as part of the golf tournament.
Thank you so much. Again, we've had the pleasure of talking to Geoff McClellan, tournament chairman for this upcoming this year, and next year there will be a rotating, somebody else will take over.
That's correct.
And Mike Adolph, you're on the board. How long is your board presidency? What's your tenure?
Well, the officer terms are 2 years.
2 years, so you'll
and then
be.
it's like 12 years on the board. Well, every 4, it's a 4-year term, renewable for 3 years. So,
and again, we want to congratulate Kaulig companies for being active. Our companies that are right here in Hudson, Ohio, where we have our studio. And also the Firestone Country Club, Club Corp, and all these organizations, the corporate organizations that provide the support that we need for the charity and for the golf tournament, the PGA, and the championships tour. People that are 50 and over, so many of us, senior citizens, getting involved, and we appreciate all the volunteers.
Yes.
Thank you for being a part of Forum 360, folks, and thanks for watching.
Forum 360 is brought to you by John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, the Akron Community Foundation, Hudson Community Television, the Rubber City Radio Group, Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron, Blue Green, Electric Impulse Communications, and Forum 360 supporters.